From The Necklace. She was one of those pretty and charming girls who are sometimes, as if by mistake of destiny, born in a family of clerks. She had no dowry, no expectations, no means of being known, understood, loved, wedded by any rich and distinguished man, and she let herself be married to a little clerk at the Ministry of Public Instruction. She dressed plainly because she could not dress well, but she was as unhappy as though she had really fallen from her proper station, since with women there is neither caste nor rank, and beauty, grace, and charm act instead of family and birth. Natural fineness, instinct for what is elegant, suppleness of wit, are the sole hierarchy, and make from women of the people the equals of the very greatest ladies. She suffered ceaselessly, feeling herself born for all the delicacies and all the luxuries. She suffered from the poverty of her dwelling, from the wretched look of the walls, from the worn-out chairs, from the ugliness of the curtains. All those things, of which another woman of her rank would never even have been conscious, tortured her and made her angry. The sight of the little Breton peasant, who did her humble housework, aroused in her regrets, which were despairing and distracted dreams. She thought of the silent antechambers, hung with the oriental tapestry, lit by tall bronze candelabra, and of the two great footmen in knee breeches who sleep in the big armchairs, made drowsy by the heavy warmth of the hot air stove. She thought of the long salons, fitted up with ancient silk, of the delicate furniture carrying priceless curiosities, and of the coquettish perfumed boudoirs made for talks at 5 o'clock, with intimate friends, with men famous and sought after, whom all women envy and whose attention they all desire. Down to dinner before the round table covered with a tablecloth 3 days old, opposite her husband, who uncovered the soup tureen and declared with an enchanted air, "Ah, the good pot-au-feu! I don't know anything better than that." She thought of dainty dinners, of shining silverware, of tapestry which peopled the walls with ancient personages and with strange birds flying in the midst of a fairy forest, and she thought of delicious dishes served on marvelous plates, and of the whispered gallantries which you listened to with a sphinx-like smile, while you were eating the pink flesh of a trout or the wings of a quail. She had no dresses, no jewels, nothing, and she loved nothing but that. She felt made for that. She would so have liked to please, to be envied, to be charming, to be sought after. She had a friend, a former schoolmate at the convent, who was rich, and whom she did not like to go and see any more because she suffered so much when she came back. But one evening her husband returned home with a triumphant air, and holding a large envelope in his hand. "There," said he, "here is something for you." She tore the paper sharply, and drew out a printed card, which bore these words: "The Minister of Public Instruction and Madame Georges Ramponneau request the honor of Mr. and Madame Loisel's company at the Palace of the Ministry on Monday evening, January 18th. Instead of being delighted, as her husband hoped, she threw the invitation on the table with disdain, murmuring, "What do you want me to do with that?" "But, my dear, I thought you would be glad. You never go out, and this is such a fine opportunity. I had awful trouble to get it. Everyone wants to go. It is very select, and they are not giving many invitations to clerks. The whole official world will be there." She looked at him with an irritated eye, and she said impatiently, "And what do you want me to put on my back?" He had not thought of that. He stammered, "Why, the dress you go to the theatre in. It looks very well to me." He stopped, distracted, seeing that his wife was crying. 2 great tears descended slowly from the corners of her eyes towards the corners of her mouth. He stuttered, "What's the matter? What's the matter?" By a violent effort she had conquered her grief, and she replied with a calm voice, while she wiped her wet cheeks, "Nothing, only I have no dress, and therefore I can't go to this ball. Give your card to some colleague whose wife is better equipped than I." He was in despair. He resumed, "Come, let us see, Matilda, how much would it cost, a suitable dress, which you could use on other occasions, something very simple?" She reflected several seconds, making her calculations, and wondering also what sum she could ask without drawing on herself an immediate refusal and a frightened exclamation from the economical clerk. Finally, she replied hesitantly, "I don't know exactly, but I think I could manage it with 400 francs." He had grown a little pale, because he was laying aside just that amount to buy a gun and treat himself to a little shooting next summer on the plain of Nanterre with several friends who went to shoot larks down there of a Sunday. But he said, "All right, I will give you 400 francs, and try to have a pretty dress."